Hey everybody, how's it going? Hey, I wanted to reply to a couple comments I got when I put up some of the stuff about the Sketchup work. I had quite a few people asking me some questions about it and how the program works and stuff like that. But I thought when I went through some of my files answering questions, I thought maybe this would be a really good way to sort of, I don't know, for lack of a better term, promote some of the stuff that I do. So if you're somebody who works in the architectural field or something like that, you probably use SketchUp and things like that in the design world. So there's just a ton of different things you can do to it. So I'm going to show you guys some of the things I've done over the years. I've got hundreds and hundreds of these projects that I've done. A lot of them that I've actually built, and I'll talk about the ones I've built so you can see where those concepts came from. And also, if you're interested in doing any of these sort of projects, one thing's going to come up. I do industrial design work. I mean, this is kind of what I've done for a long time, and I've been doing this for over 20 years. So some of these sketches, even in Sketchbook, I started looking at it. I actually started working on SketchUp about 11 years ago. So I've had a little bit of time with it, and a lot of the designs I've done have been produced. I've fabricated a lot of these things. So as I go through some of these, I'm going to show you the ones that I've actually done, just to give you a little bit of brief of what I'm capable of. So if you're anybody working in the industrial design world out there, architectural, construction or something, you should talk to people like me. There's a lot of artists out there who do a lot of different work, wear a lot of different hats, and I grew up building and fabricating, so this is kind of a natural thing for me. And again, I have about 20 years of experience in it. So let me show you some of the things I've done. And this is my home office, so it's a little bit odd, and a couple of cats are probably going to come in and interrupt us. So I just want to go with this one real quick. This was a concept that I didn't do. This was for a winery in Napa called AXR, and it was their lettering AXR. That was their logo, what they did. And I came up with these little towers that we were going to do by the road, and these things were going to be about 20 feet tall, and they were going to be curved steel, curved stainless. And I was going to have this giant plate in there that would have been painted red so you can see the images through it. So when you're driving down the street, essentially, right here was the road that you drove down. It's a very busy street in Napa. And so you would drive down, you would see these as you're driving by, you kind of like drive by and you see it. And if you're coming from the other direction, it was the same thing again. So AXR was their logo. And you can see in the background, I do a lot of what I consider studies to come up with ideas or concepts or how I'm going to make the pieces and how intricate I'm going to be, or what works right, or if a color works right, or if this looks cool here versus this looks cool here. A lot of stuff happens before you get to what you consider a final design, but this was one of them that I did not do. I was really wanted to do this. I thought this would be super cool. These are going to be stainless. It would be right on a public road, but anyway, it doesn't happen all the time. So let's go to some other stuff that I've done. This was a table that I've actually built, and this was my rough sketches from, I went from a hand sketch to this. This is DPR Construction. They're here in Sacramento. They're a fantastic large construction company. They do a lot of big crazy things. And this was 10 feet by 5 feet wide. This was a table that I actually built. I poured, I think 24 gallons of resin on this. There were different layers, and this was my original idea for the electrical outlets that we wanted to have in there, and the USB ports that I did. It changed a lot. The lettering changed a lot. This overall pattern stayed the same, and this table actually exists. I built it maybe 3-4 years ago, something like that. And this giant base here was a very monolithic style base. I cut out all that stuff, just made it simple, and just did like a really cool patina job on that. But this was a really fun project. You can see the different layers in here that you can build, and there were different pours of layers. So I did different little things in there. And if you go on my Instagram, there's a lot of this stuff is on there. So this is something I actually did. This was the concept for it. So this was something else I actually built. This was a set of railings, and there's actually the address of where this was at. I probably should not have that on here, but that's okay. And this was a pretty simple concept. Again, I'm a licensed contractor here in California, and obviously specializing in metal, I design and build and fabricate these sort of things. So the client came to me they said they kind of wanted this shape and this design. They were already kind of into this shape and design, and then they wanted me to come up with a way of putting it together. Obviously, you have codes for 4 inches on everything, so everything's within code. California is really weird on codes, and then I do the whole layout so I can show everybody how things are going to work with what heights the requirements are. But one thing that's cool about SketchUp is you can build these 3D models, so you can show a client this project. And again, this is another project that I actually did. This design that you're looking at is what sold the project. And so, when you look at it, and you can kind of like, I go in and I draw, I measure someone's space, and I measure the wall, how tall this is, how wide these things are. I do a lot of really crazy, looks like crude scribbles on paper to get my measurements on it, but then I can come back, and this is the actual steps, the actual size of the steps, everything on there, so it can be a real, this is a life scale rendering. This is all to scale, which is what's cool about SketchUp is I build everything to scale. It's life size when I do this. So again, this was a project that I actually built. I thought it was super cool. I love the way that you can kind of zoom in on things. The hand railings, I think this is quintessential to doing a hand railing at this point. I used to hand sketch things, but this is super cool. So we'll go to another one. This is a concept that I'd never built that I'm going to do. This is a sculpture that a company in Indiana had contacted me about doing for their company. This was their company colors, and I just, seeing some of their logo and some of the things they like, this is what I kind of came up with a concept. You can see the shadows in here, which is kind of cool. You can change the time of day on the shadows, what time of year it is, so you can see a shadow, what kind of shadow it's going to cast for something to do. This is about a 8-foot sculpture that I really want to do because I really am moving into more using the colors on things, but I haven't done this one yet. This is one that's in the background, in the back burner, as you say. Just these things are expensive to build. So this is another one that you can actually go see. This is something I did. You can see all these little pieces here were the concepts for these things, and what this was, and if you've ever been to Capitol Stage in Sacramento, I actually did this. This is a giant gate. This is, I think this thing's like 20 feet, and it rolls down and covers this, and this is another little man gate over here that I built with the up to code exit bar. You can kind of see the back, which is pretty simple. It's just trying to come up with a concept for everything. And then these little guys here, what these were, these little plaques were for Capitol Stage. When people would donate money, they would have their name scrolled onto there, and you could see who donated it. Obviously, it didn't tell how much they donated it, but I think the smaller donations versus the bigger plaques was kind of a way to know who did more. But this was a super cool thing, and I took an image, a JPEG image of their logo, the Capitol Stage logo, and I turned it into a drawing, a 3D drawing. And again, this was something I actually did. This is powder coated red, and the rest of it's kind of like a patinaed black steel. But if you ever go to Capitol Stage Theater on J Street in Sacramento, if you go to the back area, I built the entire back section over there, and this is part of one of the different stages of construction that we did. And I'm super proud of it because, for one, I'm a huge supporter of the arts, obviously being an artist, and the people at Capitol Stage have been some of the most amazing people I've ever met, not only in Sacramento, but just in general. They're such really devoted, great people. It was really a pleasure for me to do this job. I can't say enough about these folks. So you should support them when things come back together. And things are coming out, and you should go see some plays there. They have some amazing actors, some amazing stuff, and it just blow your mind at what they're capable of doing. So go visit them. This is, again, something else that I actually was privileged to do. So let me get this one out of here, and I'll go to the next one. So again, hand railings. So this was another conceptualized piece of a hand railing, but this is the actual measurements from the property, from the space. You can see I've got a couple of different versions on here, which is kind of neat. And these are all to scale. This is 100% to scale. And again, this client had seen the other one that I showed you a minute ago, and wanted to do something similar to this. And again, I actually built this. This exists. You can see a photo of it on my Instagram. I think one of the best photos from my Instagram is it's a photo kind of from this angle here when you're looking down on this. This is a really weird thing, and they had a lot of problems with the stairs because it was added onto the house without a permit years ago, and it was really kind of a screwy situation. I had to rebuild it. We had a lot of issues with this, but we made it work, and I think it turned out really well. We did not end up doing this little section here, which I was glad of. It's more of a flat, but it was just conceptualized again. So this was something, you know, I put together for the client. I come out to measure it. I talk about ideas they want. They already saw the other piece that I showed you before. They loved it. They wanted to do that, but make it fit in this area. So we did. So this is more of my art stuff, and this is something I did not get to do and I would love to do. These were originally going to be these giant fire pits. If you guys know Sacramento, you know the ice blocks. Well, there was a bunch of areas that they wanted to do these fire pits, and I was one of the artists that was chosen to submit ideas. I never get picked for anything in Sacramento. Sacramento has been really weird to me in the art world. It's like they hate me. They don't want anything to do with me. Which is fine. There's a much bigger world out there. I love the people of Sacramento. I don't want you to think that I'm saying anything bad about it, but it seems like when it comes to art around here, my name is blacklisted in some weird direction because I don't get anything. And it's because I suck, because clearly, look at these terrible ideas I come up with. This was a smaller fire pit version I wanted to do. I thought this would be super cool. And if you look at it, these little squares would be cut out individually. The fire pit would actually be inside of here. It'd be gas fire pit. So the light would illuminate through. Notice I said illuminated instead of lighted. There's no such thing as lighted. It's illuminated, folks. But I thought it'd be super cool to light through here and you would see the fire coming through there. So it would illuminate those and cast these shadows. I thought it was super cool. You know, the bigger ones I thought this was way cooler to me. I like doing giant, big stuff. But again, it was a cool concept. But the ice blocks didn't like it, and they didn't want to do it, so for whatever. But, you know, Michael over there that runs all that stuff, he's a good dude. I like him. I like the projects that they do, and I think they're doing a really good job in Sacramento. The ice blocks whole area I think is super cool. I like it, and it's cool. You should support it. It's a local thing if you're in Sacramento. There's a lot of cool businesses coming in there. But anyway, this was another concept that did not get approved. So we'll go to this one. This is one that I've been working on for something else. I think this is the last one on this computer. So I'm going to do a little switch a Rooney on you guys and do some other stuff. So I work on multiple computers. I think anybody probably does. I'm going to try to move this one up here a little bit so we can see it and get to it. Maybe a little easier to get to see. I don't know if this is going to work out so well. But this is a harder one to see because it's a smaller computer. And again, yeah, I work on multiple computers. I think pretty much everybody does. So this is another one that I actually did. This is a table design that it wasn't my design. It was a really good interior designer named Christy Hughes that no longer lives in Sacramento. She's down in San Diego area. One of my favorite designers to work with. She is awesome and fun and super smart. And this was a Lazy Susan. So the center section was like 40 inches wide. And I wanted it to be flush with the glass, and this is the glass. So it took a lot of weird figuring out, and I made this like giant oversized Lazy Susan thing to put it together. So you can't really see that much in here. This is more of a conceptual drawing. And as you can see again over here, you know, you go through all these different processes of like, you know, what we want, what of our size. So it's a 6-foot diameter. And then you kind of get the dimensions of how everything's going to lay out, and you kind of work on those. And I use a lot of that stuff on these flat boards on my panel. And again, this is a development stage of that to get to the final table, which ends up being this one right here. And again, this was super cool. This is one that I actually built. A lot of these actually get built. Again, I've been doing this for over 20 years, and so there's a lot of cool stuff on here. So that was a cool project. This was another one. It's another hand railing for the same woman, Christy. And again, you know, you go in and I can measure someone's space and kind of figure out what they need and kind of lay out what they want for a design. They wanted to, again, do something super simple, which I like the super simple stuff because I think in the architectural world, it works out really well. But it's a fun, cool way to lay out projects. Anyways, that's another one. Did not do that one. This one I did. This is a lighting design that I did, and my brother helped me out a lot with this one. We did it for a television show that I'm not going to talk about, but I thought it was kind of cool, and it was interesting way to lay it out. There's obviously 4 of these, and they kind of laid out in a weird angle, so it was a little more of a floating thing, and then there was a bunch of other stuff that dangled. I like the word dangle. It dangled from down here, and it was kind of cool concept, but it was a lighting project. This was another one that I did build. This was for a really great client of mine that I really like. He bought a sculpture from me that had these shapes on it. And if you see in the background, again, how there's like tons and tons and tons of study back here. So this is kind of how do I develop things. And I'll go in and I'll mess with the shapes and move them around. This was kind of like an exercise, if you will, of how to move the shape around, how I wanted it to set, how I wanted the pieces to look, where's the table going to set on there. So a lot of things go into what before things hit. And this was the design that I ended up using right here. This was the one on the end. Oops, kind of crazy, but so this was the one that we ended up going with right here, and it was kind of cool. Neat concept, super fun, cool project. This is all stainless steel, and yeah, sometimes 3D is kind of weird to move around, but this was a stainless steel project, super fun to do. I don't know, it's kind of cool. I like developing ideas, and again, this is one that we built. This was a 10 feet by 4 feet, regular table height as outdoor, and it's all in stainless, but it was based off of some of my sculpture work, another sculpture I did. This is a pergola. So I've done several pergolas over the years, not years singular, years plural. This one was, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and it was a pretty good sized structure. You can see from the house, this is pretty good structure. I think this was, I want to say 24 feet or something like that, and then this height here was about 14 or 16 feet, something like that. But it was super cool, and I love doing stuff like this because it challenges me. Structurally, this thing was like a bulletproof, man. This thing was so strong and sturdy, and again, my brother helped me build this. It's all 2-inch square tubing. This was the design concept. We wanted to keep everything open and not a lot of weird support through there. So when I came up with the idea for this truss right here, what's kind of interesting about these sort of things is this truss, this was I believe it was 12 inches by 24 feet. But when I lay out this truss, I do it like bridges, and if you're driving down the highway and you ever see a big aluminum trailer, a flatbed semi-trailer, you'll notice it has like a hump in it. There's a reason in the design and engineering that there's a hump in there. It's so that when the weight, they maximize it for a weight that they think they're going to use on a normal basis, and that weight, when it pushes into it, it actually levels everything out. So there's a little bit of like a spring tension on it. So when I did this, I actually, from this corner to the corner to the middle, there's about a 1-inch deflection, and then these are what the gussets are welded in there, so it kind of has a little bit of a deflection in it. So this does have a slight arch to it, but when all the weight's on it, that 1 inch ends up being like a 1/4 inch, so it kind of goes away. So pergolas, I love pergolas. They're super fun. I had another one I was going to do, but it kind of fell through recently. But this one is another project I was able to build. So let's look at some more. So this is obviously a gate design that I was working on. I wanted to do glass on this. I thought it'd be super cool to do this in glass, and it was all going to be glass. Instead of being open, it would have been like a clear stained glass with some sort of cool shape. And I was just playing around with the different things. And the brick, this was actually brick for this concept, and I thought it'd be super cool. I really liked it. We ended up not doing it, but whatever. It's a cool piece. Well, the cool ones, even if I don't do them, I save them because I think they're just super cool. Let's go to another. So this is for a pretty big project that is still kind of like, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. But these are doors. So basically this wall is something that the contractor's already built, and then I'm working on this project here, which was these windows. So this is a restaurant. This is where they slide the food to everybody, and they wanted the windows to fold down. And this is a sliding door, obviously, and this is the back kind of section, what you'd see. And this is actually the image from the architectural drawing, and I added in my window designs, and you can kind of see there's a glass in there in part of the design, and then these windows. So basically it's like an old school window frame. I've done a bunch of these. If you've ever been to the Warehouse Artist Lofts and on R Street in Sacramento, the storefronts in there, I built all of those, and this is kind of in that same vein of like the older, like turn of the century kind of window designs that had the chicken wire in it. That was actually like an anti-shatter thing that they used to do back in the day. This is fun. This is a project I'm hoping I get to do with the coronavirus thing going on. It's hard to say what anybody will do, but I'm hoping this actually comes through. This again is another quick hand railing thing. This was just the conceptual design. It went all the way around here for a deck. in McKinley Park in Sacramento. Super cool, just a wood inlay, so I built the frame. And, you know, people want to see what things are going to look like. So they want to see some sort of rendering, which is kind of nice. That one I actually did. This one was for the warehouse artist lofts on our street. When these were originally being built, I was one of the designers that was doing a lot of the work for the stair railing, and I really wanted to do this job because I thought it'd be super cool. It was super simple. You know, but the details are kind of nice because this was the lofts, the bedroom lofts, and when you come in here, you can see, you know, on these 3D drawings, you can do everything because you have your codes to deal with, so you have your spacing code. Again, this is all to actual size, so this is full scale of everything. So whatever that dimension is and the spacing in between, that's what it would have been. It makes it really easy for me as a fabricator because I can figure out my materials usage, exactly what my spacing is, what I'd like it to be. Obviously things change in the field when you're working on stuff, but and then the thing goes kind of nutty. But I think this is a great program for folks like me to work on things. And again, it's kind of cool where you can zoom in and see how things go together. You know, I don't know, it's cool. I like it. They do take a lot of time to do. If any sort of drawing like this takes a lot of time. Never did this. Warehouse artist lofts, they were in a big budget situation, and we ended up not doing it. But again, I like it, and I kept the idea. And other things too. This is like my dream house. I'm designing my dream house. This is the house, and this is the shop. I know I'll probably never get to do this, but if I could, it'd be super cool. This would be my balcony coming off the master bedroom, and this would be a catwalk going from my upper level building into the studio. So I don't have the door worked out in there yet. And you can go in and build this entire thing, the inside structure, and that's something I was actually going to do. This would be a very complex drawing, but, you know, this is kind of the shell of working everything out. These will be little planter boxes in there, and you know, you could grow stuff or whatever. The big garage door to get into the shop. And you'll notice the shop is actually bigger than the house because that's, you know, how you do things. That's how people who build things build houses. So anyway, it's kind of cool, this concept I have. It's one of many house designs I have. Public art ideas. I do a lot of my public art presentations with this and kind of show it. Kind of cool, kind of neat, I don't know, kind of cool. This is one that I actually submitted for the city of Sacramento. And again, you know, I get shot down a lot in general on public art, so, you know, whatever. You can't take anything personal. You just kind of keep making designs, and then one day maybe someone will pick it up. So anyway, that's one of them. And then what else we got? So this was a gazebo. I was working with another builder for a while when I first moved to Sacramento, and I would do a lot of design work for this gazebo that we were trying to come up with a conceptual idea for. We didn't end up doing this, but it's all in steel, and I kind of worked out all the details. And again, you know, it's easy for me because I can figure out my materials usage and everything. So it's kind of a cool project to do. I thought it would have been cool. It's kind of like a bird cage. My idea was to do a little bit of a bird cage idea on it. Anyway, it was kind of cool. That one never ended up getting done. Here's an interesting one, and you can see this in person. If you've ever been to Broderick, the bar in West Sac, right outside of Sac, if you're sitting at the bar and you look up and you have all their whiskey and their glasses and everything, this is the actual design that is there. There's two of these. There's one here and there's one on this side. I did a bunch of work to that bar and a bunch of design work for these, and these shelving units I thought were super cool. They decorated them really neat, and they wanted something unique that they could store, and we had to measure bottles and things like that to come up with how tall the bottles and stuff needed to be, how things were going to be. So this was one you can see at Broderick Bar. It's super cool. This is a sculpture idea again. This is called Avoid, Ignore, Reject, and Shunned. My sculpture ideas are pretty dark sometimes, but these are abstract figures that I thought were super cool. I really want to do these sometime, but you know, it's on the list. And then, let's save that. I'm going to change. And then what else we got? Another one, concept for a public art thing. This was actually going to be on the roof at our street art complex. We had a bunch of I-beams that were kind of sitting around and we were going to use, and this was one of the ideas I came up with, to use these I-beams that are like 100-year-old I-beams. Actually, they're older than that. I think they're from like like 1880 or something like that. So, but they were Carnegie I-beams. You know anything about the steel world? Carnegie is where steel really came from in America, and I really wanted to do this with some Carnegie beams because they're almost impossible to even find unless you're in a building in New York or Chicago. This is another one, little gate idea I did when I was working with another metal shop. Come up with, it was just an entry gate. I thought it was kind of cool. Thought it'd be kind of neat. Again, you know, you come up with these drawings and you have to do those other little sub drawings to get things together to work out. But it was kind of cool. We did not end up doing this, but I kept it because I thought it was neat and cool, and maybe someday I'll do it for something. What else I got on here? Oh, this is a huge one. So this was a bridge, and I designed these lights. What's crazy about this thing here is this is a really big file, and you can see I put the cars on there, but these lights, I had come up with this design for these lights that would be mounted on this bridge, and the bridge already exists, so I had to come out with a way of like attaching them to the bridge, which is what this was going to be. The way it was basically a sculpture idea that laid out over these things, and there was electrical that was inside here, so we'd have like a little way to get in there, but it would capsulate over the existing railing. And then this light, the top half was going to be copper, and then these lights were going to be a stained glass, a cool stained glass, and it was actually going to be a planter, so you had these plants that were going to be inside of there. If it loads, you'll be able to see the glass. You can see the glasses. I know this is a really big file, mainly because I put that dumb car in there, but I wanted people to see the car. But that car made it a really big file, and you can import stuff like this too. So they have this huge array of things that you can import into Sketchup that you can do other files and things with. So it's kind of cool. But it's just an interesting project that I worked on a long time ago. Did not end up doing that. And then there's just kind of, you know, little things like this weird sculpture ideas I come up with and mess around with, and then kind of transfer them to other things. This is something I do for painting. Sometimes I'll come up with a design. I can do some weird like layouts. I want to do this as a painting, maybe a resin piece of some sort. But anyway, so that's kind of it. So hope you guys enjoyed that. I know it was really long. I'm trying not to make super long videos, but you know, people ask me about some of these concepts for things and how some of these things work, and my tripod's falling down. So that's kind of how some of them work. SketchUp, again, is a super cool program that is really easy to use, and as you can see from, that's probably 7 or 8 years worth of just random files that I have. I have probably another 100 of those. So I'm always working and drawing things, and 3D makes it really cool to work on ideas and process them. So, you know, give it a shot. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and you know, enjoy your quarantine. And you know, programs like this I think are something that you could really spend a lot of time in if you're interested in these sort of things, and we're all kind of locked down right now and you want to do something positive. Learning something is always, in my mind, one of the best uses of your time. So these programs, there's plenty of other ones out there. There's Fusion 360, which is free. It's a little bit more of a CAD type program, which I would recommend if you're trying to do like laser cutting and bigger things like that. But this, as far as a drawing program or having an idea for something, or even, you know, you can lay out your living room and put in furniture, and you can import furniture from, they have a library that you can attach things to. It's just a ton of crazy stuff. But you know, all this downtime that we have, you know, it's nutty, and I don't want to go into other stuff, but you know, we can invest in ourselves, and you know, finding things like this. And everybody's got a computer, everybody's got the option to sit around and, you know, veg out and goof off, watch movies or whatever. But to me, I'd rather spend my time learning something, and I think this is a super good program to learn, just because you can do so many cool things with it. Drawing, any artist can use this. Is just another tool. But anyway, hope you guys have a great day, and enjoy the weekend. Talk to you guys later.